it going, everybody? Mark and Travis here for the first time we've got together since we did the channel together. Feels good, buddy. And today we're going to be doing the trilogy of the original X-Men trilogy.
Back in 2000 through 2006.
And I will say, he did, I didn't. I didn't get the chance to watch The Last Stand. I didn't get to make it to part 3.
Recently. You've seen it.
I've
I've
seen it many times, but I'll do what I can. But as of story arc in that movie, I'm basically going to leave that movie a little bit more to him. I'll just be ranting about that. But anyways, I think what we're going to do, I'll just give you a brief summary of what the trilogy as a whole is, and after that we will dive into a little bit of spoilers, so we'll let you know when spoilers start. With that being said, you guys have probably seen these movies many times before, older movies, so...
Going on 20 years old, the first one anyway.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Just about. So
with that being said, we're going to keep this part just as short as can be, so we'll get into that. So basically, what the first X-Men movie is about, you got a group of mutants, and the humans have some sort of prejudice against mutants. They look at it as like, people are like, as if you want to say racist against mutants. They look at it as if like
it's almost like how whites were with the blacks, like way back
for the gays and like. Well, actually, now that you say that, it actually makes sense. I'll have to bring this up once we start spoilers. But about the beginning of the movie, how Magneto was in. He was Jewish and he was in the Holocaust. So that, now that you say that, that actually is a big part of Magneto's character. And by the time the second movie rolls around, it's basically the same go-ahead, but at this point we find out that with Stryker talking to Professor X, he says that you couldn't cure my son. So they're just making it seem like being a mutant is some kind of
human has a
virus
with mutants, and they're looking at it as a disease, where it is a disease in a way, but
but see, that's, I remember like back, I've heard people say that like if you were to be gay back in the day, people would say that you have a disease, and say like you go to church and it'll help you become better, or whatever they say. So like that's what they used to do. So I feel as though that's a very similar thing to cure it. And by the time the third film rolls around, they have developed a cure for this disease that they so-called claim. And whereas Magneto's character, he does have a very large role in the story with how each movie, the view of humanity's view on mutants just keeps getting worse.
And it's changing his view on humans as well.
Exactly, so that's why you got a really well-written character and really well-written villain. That's why these movies work, because he's not only the antagonist, but he's also the protagonist as well, in his own kind of way.
They make you feel bad for him, but they make you don't like him and like him at the same time.
He's in the right state of mind. Well, I shouldn't say that. He's doing good in a very bad way.
Yeah,
is what he's doing. He's trying to show people that like it's not. It's just like it is a gift.
Well, we were discussing earlier. Professor X and Magneto are basically the same person in a way, but yet very different. Like Magneto's very brutal
and I think that has a lot to do with Magneto,
with his upbringing. With that
exactly.
I guess we should just dive.
That's what I was just about to say. Let's get into spoilers. So from here on out, there's just going to be spoilers for the rest of the review. We'll be jumping a little back and forth because whatever comes to mind, we're going to say it. But starting off with what you just said in the first X-Men movie, we do got to realize that we seen Magneto in the camps in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And we seen him get taken away, and we seen him discover his powers in that moment.
And I like too, I know it's kind of jumping way farther ahead, but they brought him back to that scene in Apocalypse. I really liked that. It was just a small scene, but the gates were even bent. And
it's the same spot, it's the same location.
It's just little things like that I love. But this overall, the story, it really reminded me of, there was this in the old Spider-Man show, there was this plot the Lizard had to turn everyone to lizards. They actually brought it to life in the Amazing Spider-Man movie, but it is from an original cartoon, which is probably based off of the comics. But I found this movie a lot like that, where Magneto's trying to... Overall, his main game plan is to turn this group of humans to mutants. And it kind of reminded me of that, like how the Lizard... But it's the first time we've seen this on the big screen, so
yes,
it was
and with
different.
with that being said, that it was the first time we seen that on the big screen. In that first X-Men movie, we really do only see Magneto as a villain, where it isn't until the second movie where his character really starts to shine.
And I'll jump into the second movie, but because it reminds you. You almost feel more bad for him in the second movie too. But
you see in the second movie you start to see where he's coming from more so.
The thing with the plot to this movie, it's like every other superhero movie tried to take the X-Men 1.
It was
like
the original.
Suicide Squad, the Thing in the air, and then all the fucking zombie things, and the Amazing Spider-Man. Like,
it was one of those first superhero movies.
Like they're all kind of like that. They just each time they just make it a little more intense.
A little different, but it really is. But it was that... Yeah, I do say there was... You had like Michael Keaton's Batman, and that was basically... Before X-Men, that was the only superhero movies that were just like... Yes, superhero movies can have a lot of depth to them, and they can be dark, and they can still be successful. But X-Men came out, and like it was like... The CGI and the character building, and... that was the first time we seen that in a superhero movie.
Yeah.
And we seen that again with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 years later.
Yeah.
And then after that it took off.
And the one thing about the story is, though, the original X-Men movie, it almost feels like it's following Wolverine, like it's his story more than the X-Men. It's almost like it's Wolverine and the X-Men. It's not...
because I find the first X-Men movie, it's mainly about, as a movie, that movie is mainly about Wolverine. He doesn't know who he is, and he finds this girl who is Rogue, who I'm referring to, and she has this problem. She can't touch people because she absorbs their energy, so they're both very alone in that way.
And before you move on from there, the chemistry with Logan and Rogue in this movie, it gets me more excited for the Logan movie. Like, seeing him with Rogue, it got me more excited to see him with that little girl in the new Logan movie. It kind of had me feeling like that. Whereas the last couple X-Men movies, you're lucky if you even see Hugh Jackman in it. And if he's in it for a scene just to be in it.
I was surprised to see him in Apocalypse.
I was half expecting him, but at the same time, I was pretty shocked. As soon as they said there was an animal in the cage, but... Anyways, shall we get on to our favorite scenes in the first movie, or?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to talk about how Logan, when you first get introduced to Logan in this movie, he's in the cage, and they're all telling him to fight him in the sky. And he's beating Logan up, and you're just like, whoa, what's going on? And then all of a sudden he gets angry, and he punches the guy, and you can hear it clink. You can hear the adamantium bone just go crunch, and it was, and then I don't know. It was the perfect introduction to his character, because most people who aren't a fan of X-Men or who doesn't know who this character is probably just gonna be like, huh? I heard that. That's not what a bone is supposed to sound like.
And then all the way from that scene up to the car accident, when Logan goes flying out the windshield, splits his head open. The first time you really see him heal. I love that whole introduction. Logan's introduction to that movie was great.
And with that being said, speaking of that scene, I must say this one little nitpick. I don't know if I will let you say it, but I'll address you into this. Involving the car crash scene, what are your thoughts on them not addressing Sabretooth as Logan's brother?
That's one of my bigger complaints. Like, throughout the movie, they bring up how Professor X and Magneto they have a past together, but Logan and Sabretooth aren't they not brothers? Or
I don't even know if they are.
I think they're brothers, but not blood brothers, aren't they? Is it something? I'll have to watch Origins again. But...
It was in the beginning of that movie where we found out.
if they're not brothers, they're basically brothers.
I think they're.
It felt like they were strangers in the original X-Men movie. And
yes, exactly. It felt as though. With that being said, Logan doesn't have his memory in the first X-Men, but Sabretooth, he does seem as though he just seems like if he knew, he's just basically a bad, just this evil bad guy.
At the same time, they don't not address it to make you feel like it's the first. They very well could have had a background, but they don't address it, so you don't know.
Yeah, so you can't consider it canon.
Yeah.
But other than that, we can get on to the stuff that we like and don't like about the second one, if you want. There are very few nitpicks I have with this movie.
The first one. Before we go into that, though, I got which is it? The loophole. I'll just say loophole. Forget all this stuff. I found a loophole in the X-Men movie. So, the first 3/4 of the film, Magneto's trying to get to the X-Men to take Rogue, basically, to capture Rogue, to use her powers for what he needs to do, but it will kill him if he does it. But the thing is, never once throughout the film do they announce, globally or anywhere, that this girl has these powers. So, how does Magneto know this girl has these powers, and how does he know that she absorbs people's powers without it ever being announced? The only time you find out she absorbs powers is when they're in the mansion when Wolverine stabs her, and only people in the mansion know, unless Mystique was in the mansion, but even then, they sent Sabretooth earlier after, so how do they know? It's just a simple loophole that just got me mind boggled, and they could have simply just done one little 30-second scene and it wouldn't be a loophole at all. But it's just the fact that Magneto's after this girl who he basically doesn't know exists. If he doesn't know Wolverine exists, how does he not know?
It must have had something to do with Cerebro. That's all I can figure out.
Yeah, I don't know. It just that bothered me about it. But that was one of a few things that did bother me. Obviously, the CGI bothered me a bit in it, and the props bothered me in it. But overall, I rated the first film an 8.5 out of 10. So, if they had had the costumes on point, it probably would have been better. But I really liked the story in it. So.
Yeah, I give the first film, I'd say off the top of my head, I just watched it yesterday. The first film, I'm gonna give. I'll give that film a 7 out of 10. So,
I understand. I like the story of it more than anything. There was the CGI and the props were the downfall to that movie.
So that being said, let's just get into X2.